Before I jump into this video, I want to say shout out to the gentlemen who brought their points up to try to refute my hypothesis. I just have to say, before you finish typing your response to the inevitable layoffs, sadly, I hate this. Guys, I'm not a fan of making these kinds of videos. I've said this before. Before you were able to basically click post, another studio, even though not a PlayStation studio, but affiliated with PlayStation, has already finally fully shut down. When I gave my hypothesis, it showed that exactly what PlayStation's business strategy was, which is not to in any way acknowledge that there is an Xbox player base, but rather cut off its own nose to show itself in some kind of light, which is perception-based business, not one that's actually, in a sense, based on any sustainability. They've basically put themselves in a really weird place. Before you even type the response to the response video, Neil Druckmann had come out to already go ahead and say, well, there might not be another Last of Us. You have to contend with other content creators like GameStar. GameStar's hypothesis is if Intergalactic fails, Naughty Dog is toast. I don't know. That's a big claim that he made. I heard it and I was like, man, there's something he must know that I don't know. However, I heard that come up and I said to myself, he may be onto something. Because Naughty Dog has been playing games lately, doing whatever the heck it is that they want, and not necessarily paying attention to the market shifts. So my hypothesis so far has moved not just from hypothesis, but straight to inevitable occurrence. I didn't even have to do anything because those developers that got laid off, they worked on single player games. You came out and said, oh, it's because they were moving away from live service. But by and large, I think you were clearly mistaken. I'd say while you're ahead, let this one go. It's all right. It's no problem. I'm not here to basically, celebrate something because I've told you that this was an inevitable reality, but it's a reality that hurts at the end of the day. To jump into the next video, I think a lot of people are probably in this very interesting limbo and they're not playing chess. Let's get into a game of chess with Xbox because it seems like some of the Xbox fans have seemingly lost sight of the full picture over here. Shout out to Brother Knowledge, audience member, supporter of the channel. We were talking about my video today. He said, man, your position on them being super aggressive, technically, it makes sense, but realistically, I don't know. I mean, it's weird. Right now, Xbox fans, you're still coming out of a lot of the shock and a lot of the trauma that Xbox will put itself in a very strong position overnight, buying Activision Blizzard King and changing the entire narrative. Like, no longer are PlayStation fans going to walk up to you and say nonsense without them actually having to look back in their house. I mean, and today, the PlayStation house is actually on fire as I'm making this game. They need to go do something about this. I mean, they are all on blast right now. According to Reforge, who was basically bashing Destin and Paris, who were not even too excited about this, no red lines thing. He has been saying that they were astroturfing. He ought to go look into PlayStation's house and see what that means. So we were talking about this particular video of mine, and he said, that just seems too aggressive. Don't you think it's best they exercise caution in slow rolling this? Wouldn't that be the smart play? I mean, think about it. They just canceled 10 live service games in a year. With the game production cycle being anywhere between 4 and 6 years, sometimes even longer, PlayStation's first-party landscape is going to be barren for years. They have time to roll out their games at a pace over the next 4 years, and with many of the games almost completely take that platform over before PlayStation reaches a regular first-party cadence again. I replied and said there's a time for everything. This is not a time for caution. You need a barrage of PlayStation games, of games on PlayStation before they get their rhythm back. Strategy requires subtlety and aggression in the appropriate time. Xbox diehards don't even see the market because we were talking about the Xbox diehards. And I said the only thing about Sunset Overdrive, which I proposed in this video, is that it doesn't impact any studios. However, Fable, if they send the old Fable games, it impacts Playground Games. If they want to capitalize as a multi-platform game, then that's the play, similar to Forza. Then he replied and said, okay, the rush, if they go ahead and do that, would the rush not, in a sense, harm them? And I said, no, the PlayStation layoffs basically are the best thing for them to basically go ahead and do right now to establish themselves as an EA/Rockstar level publisher on the platform, to paint Xbox in the right light that they are, which is Xbox has games. That's all Xbox needs right now, is that there is the conversation about the games that they actually have, which they actually have. Because there's no point in making all these games and, publishing and providing all these games and nobody knows the heck about them. So what they need now is they need to give a taste to the other audience and then continue to hold on to that narrative, which will require a lot of moves in a year like 2025 where PlayStation is reeling, so that they can recapture the narrative. Because if you give PlayStation and their lackeys in the media an inch, I guarantee you're not going to see a mile back. And I said this 9 hours ago. The differential is for next gen, including Game Pass, which will now hold all the games. And this is where Brother Knowledge said, okay, I think you have something up your sleeves. And yes, I do. Dear Xbox fans, are you not hearing the rumors of when the next Xbox console is coming? It's not the next 4 years. Like if we go back to Brother Knowledge's comment, he thought for the next 4 years, because people are expecting that this generation of Xbox consoles will last for the next 4 years. Xbox does not have that luxury in the hardware side. When they moved Fable, that's when my ears perked up. I said, why would they move a game that's basically targeting 2025? Well, then I looked and said, well, look at what they're doing. They got some old games going to Xbox. So I said, guys, their strategy is not aggressive enough. They need to flood it with more older games, while these new beauties that are waiting in the background are basically the next Xbox launch, if they possibly can make it. Because now what they're going to go do, and according to the rumors that we heard, if 2026 is a window, now let's go ahead and readjust our whole thinking to 2026 in one potential category. It could be a hypothesis, it could be a fugazi, whatever. But if it's a 2026 launch and they're going to basically try to get ahead of the market in front of PlayStation, then they need games. Not only do they need games, they need an audience that is already aware that, number one, Xbox has games, and number two, we've gotten a taste of these Xbox games. This is the differential that PlayStation was basically freaking out about, that Microsoft will be able to provide these games to its audience in a very interesting light. Do you hear it? Do you hear it? Do you hear it? When I posed this to our audience member, Delusions of Grandeur, he said, do you mean those years ago leaked document? Bruh, this document was projecting 2027. The document has not realized the potential challenge of having a game that's already been on PlayStation no longer be on PlayStation. Hence, these games that are already going, that are old games like Forza and the others, to go and basically give a taste to their audience and then sit on Xbox in the next gen and say, you can either wait for the PS6 or you can join us here on this next Xbox console. Possible strategy. Not saying that's what they're going to do, but it's at their own pace to launch their games on PlayStation, of which day one is a very selective number. Doom Dark Ages, sure. Bethesda game, you can go. Outer Worlds, sure. Avowed Studio, Obsidian, they could use some of those sales. But the in-game differential right now, the differential that will stand out between both of them, is that they're going to come out and say, hey, by the way, we have, if 2026 is on the table, we have a Call of Duty game on a next generation experience for those of you that play Call of Duty alone. I told y'all in a different video months ago that 1 million dedicated Call of Duty players, they are easy fodder for Xbox if they actually want it. Some of you said, it's going to be a hard sell. I was like, guys, these folk don't play anything else other than Call of Duty. All they need is just to be able to sync progress across their Call of Duty games, and Xbox will promise them something really cool, and they're in. So there are different possibilities here. Now, the 2026 hypothesis. Where am I getting this from? Well, you got to give it to the Iron Lord's gentleman, King David, who's been talking about this particular console coming earlier than many expect. Already, you as an Xbox fan know that Xbox is committed to bringing the next generation of console. But these games are also old, and they've seemingly reached their saturation point for the number of consoles in this gen that they can go ahead and sell. However, if they launch a new console with new benefits, with that differential of games that PlayStation players have tasted and, in a sense, can't necessarily continue just easily. They now have in front of them something that they can say, well, we have it over here. If you want, you could easily just buy our next gen console, or maybe a Series S could do it for you to hold on. Because Xbox, I don't think, is interested in cutting off the Series generation. They're going to merge and blend the Series generation into the next generation as an entire whole unit. Does that make sense to anybody? Is anybody getting this? Because Xbox is not going to go ahead and say, well, you know, you can't get these features on the PlayStation 6 like they did with the PlayStation 5. No, they're going to go ahead and cross-gen the entire series and chain it to whatever is coming ahead. So if the next generation of consoles were to sell another 30 million, Xbox would consider itself as serving 60 million users. Do you understand what I mean? They're not going to go ahead and cut off that generation so easily. Everything is going to carry on like that. And so the conversation about a handheld, what do you think a handheld is going to be comparable to? Nothing in terms of power, and will be below the Series S. So if that so-called handheld, if it becomes a thing, ever were to show up, the Series S is going to be basically the benchmark for which you should make games for it. Are we playing some chess right now? Because they could also, I mean, literally, they just say, well, you know, we have it here on the PS6, on the next Xbox, the new Xbox. Maybe you want to wait for the PS6, maybe not. And we also have it on Game Pass, by the way. So you, on the PlayStation side, you're looking and going, well, should I wait till 2030? Should I wait till 2028? What do I do here? Okay? While PlayStation is trying to twiddle its thumbs and figure out what's going on, you have games in front of you. And remember, the messaging, Xbox has games, which was taken over in 2025, is now resonating in people's minds. I just don't know why people don't see this as a marketing ploy. Chick-fil-A, the chicken sandwich brand, one of the things that really gave them notoriety was that they were giving away a lot of free chicken sandwiches everywhere that they could. Why? They wanted to do what they call develop a new taste for a customer. In fact, sometimes some Chick-fil-A stores will do a free breakfast where they will give like their least sold item for free as a breakfast, maybe a side, maybe an item that, you know, people don't usually order. Because if people don't really, know about, say, how many of you know that they have a chicken, egg, and cheese muffin at Chick-fil-A? That's a very unique, segmented niche product. But if somebody doesn't know about it, how would they know if they like it or not? And for them, many of them are like, well, I'm just going to stick with my chicken biscuit or whatever I'm eating. And if I don't have any reason to try something, I won't. But the moment they try it, if they hate it, then they know they hate it. But if they like it, now they have another item that will bring them back to you. This is pure marketing. All these old games that Xbox is sending over to the PlayStation, if Phil hasn't told you, they're all a marketing ploy. I don't know if you understand what's going on with the contingency and the possibility that we'll still keep giving you a taste of some of these games from time to time. That, to me, I see as Xbox's big play when it comes to 2025, 2026. And this is a time-sensitive issue, guys. This is not a matter where they need to be slowing their roll. Do you understand what I mean? The next generation of hardware is going to be a defining factor. And if they can establish themselves as that level of publisher to PlayStation fans, then they can then say, well, you're on PlayStation, we're over here, we have games. Because that's what they did for PC players. Now, PC players are a little bit tougher to peel away from their consoles, from their PC, sorry. Right? Because their own, hardware is very, very different. However, PlayStation is not going to be launching, if they stick with their 2028, 2030 calendar, they're not going to be launching another hardware piece for 4 years after 2026 or 2 years after 2026. That is a huge window to capitalize on with new hardware. That's if Xbox is going 2026. It's going to be interesting when we take a look at it, though. Talk to me in the comment section. What are your thoughts? Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.